The Galactic Harmony Academy floated in orbit around a swirling orange gas giant named Vexor 9. Students from more than 40 different species came here to learn how to live together without war. The station was huge, with wide shiny corridors, bright learning domes, and zero-gravity sports fields. Everyone wore the same gray uniform, with small colored patches that showed their homeworld. Lyrael was a Valkyrie girl from the soft cloud world of Aetheris. Her people had glowing wings made of light feathers that shimmered like morning mist on water. Long ago, other species called the Valkyrie angels because they flew between storms, bringing messages of peace. Now the Valkyries stayed quiet and gentle. Their bones were light and hollow, like bird bones. Their wings broke easily if anyone pulled too hard. Lyrael was small even for her kind. She had pale silver hair and eyes the color of deep twilight. Her wings folded tight against her back most of the time, because she felt safer that way. Every morning, Lyrael woke up in her small dorm room. She sat on the edge of her sleep pod and looked at herself in the mirror. She took soft white bands from the shelf and started to wrap her wings. The bands were smooth and strong. They pressed the feathers flat against her body, so the wings looked small and flat under her uniform. She wrapped them carefully, starting from the top near her shoulders, and working down to the tips. It hurt a little, because the feathers did not like to be crushed, but she did it anyway. She told herself this was normal. This was how she stayed safe. When the bands were tight, she pulled her uniform shirt over them. The shirt hid everything. No one could see the glow of her feathers anymore. She stood up straight, took a deep breath, and opened the door. The corridor outside was already busy with students walking to class. Some laughed. Some talked in strange languages that sounded like clicks or songs. Lyrael kept her head down and walked fast, reached the xenobiology room before the trouble started. The trouble always waited in the same place. It was a wide hallway between the lift tubes and the gravity classroom. 4 Krothari students stood there every morning. They were big and heavy, with thick green scales and 4 strong arms. Each one was almost twice as tall as Lyrael. Their names were Grax, Torv, Krell, and Vash. They came from a high-gravity mining world where strength mattered more than anything else. They thought the academy was boring, so they made their own fun. Lyrael saw them from far away. Her stomach twisted. She slowed her steps, hoping they would not notice her today. But they always noticed. Grax was the leader. He had a scar across one eye, and sharp teeth that showed when he smiled. He stepped into the middle of the hall and blocked her path. "Look who flies in," said Grax in a loud, rough voice. "The little bird is late today." The other 3 laughed. They moved to surround her. Lyrael stopped walking, looked at the floor. Her hands shook at her sides. "Please let me go," she said in a soft voice. "I have class." Grax laughed louder. "Class," he said. "You do not need class. You need clipping practice." Before she could move, Torv reached out with 2 arms. He grabbed the back of her shirt and pulled hard. The fabric ripped a little. Lyrael tried to step back, but Krell blocked her with his body. Vash grabbed her arms and held them tight. Grax stepped close and took hold of the white bands around her wings. "No," Lyrael whispered. "Please, not today." Grax did not listen. He pulled the top band loose. It snapped free and fell to the floor. Her wings sprang out a little. The feathers glowed bright silver in the hallway lights. Students walking past looked, but no one stopped. No one said anything. They just kept walking. "There we go," said Grax. "Now we can play." He took a handful of primary feathers near the top of her left wing. He twisted them hard. Lyrael gasped. The pain shot through her. Like fire. She bit her lip so she would not cry loud. Grax pulled again. The feathers broke with small popping sounds. They fell to the floor like broken glass. Torv did the same to her right wing. He snapped 3 big feathers at once. Lyrael felt tears run down her face. She could not stop them. "Why do you cry?" asked Krell. "You grow them back every night. This is nothing." "It hurts." Lirael said in a tiny voice. "It always hurts." Grax leaned close. His breath smelled like hot metal. "Then hurt more," he said. "Maybe you will learn to fly faster that way." They kept going. They broke more feathers. They twisted the smaller ones near her shoulders. Lirael stood still, because fighting made it worse last time. She had tried to pull away once, and Grax had slammed her against the wall. Her wing had snapped in 2 places. The pain lasted for days, even with medicine. Now she just waited for it to end. Other students passed by. Some looked, some whispered, some smiled like it was a joke. No security drones flew over. The academy had rules about cultural differences. The Crothari said this was how they played on their homeworld. They said it built strength. The Valkyrie never complained in public, so the teacher said it was okay. After what felt like forever, Grax stepped back. He wiped his hands on his pants. "Look at that," he said. "Clean job. She will be flying again by breakfast." The 4 of them laughed and walked away. Lirael stayed where she was. Her wings hung loose now. The broken feathers leaked soft silver light like dying stars. Blood mixed with the glow and dripped on the floor. She bent slowly and picked up the white bands with shaking fingers. She wrapped her wings again, even though they hurt so much she could hardly move the cloth. Her tears fell on the fabric and made small wet spots. When the bands were tight again, she pulled her shirt down. She wiped her face with her sleeve. She took a deep breath. She started walking to class again, slow. Each one sent pain up her back. She told herself the same thing she said every morning. "This will end soon. 2 more cycles, and I graduate. Then I can go home and never come back." She reached the xenobiology room and slipped inside. She found her seat in the back row. She folded her hands in her lap and stared at the table. The teacher started talking about plant life on different worlds. Lirael tried to listen, but the pain made it hard to think. She felt the broken places in her wings throb with every heartbeat. Across the room, a new student sat quietly. The new girl was human. Her name was Mara Voss. She came from a small colony world called Edge 9. Humans were new to the academy. Most species thought they were strange, small, weak, and too quick to fight. Mara wore her hoodie up, so her face stayed half hidden. She took notes with a stylus and never looked around much. Mara had seen Lirael in the hall that morning. She had watched from the side while the Crothari broke the wings. She had not moved. She had not spoken. She had just watched, with calm, dark eyes. When the Crothari walked away, Mara looked at Lirael for a long moment. Then she looked back at her notes. Lirael did not notice the human girl. She was too tired. She was too hurt. She just wanted the day to end, so the nanites in her blood could start fixing her wings overnight. Tomorrow would be the same. Tomorrow the bands would come off again. Tomorrow the pain would start again. That was how things worked here. That was how things had always worked. Lirael closed her eyes for a second. She pictured her homeworld, with endless soft clouds and warm winds, where wings could open wide without fear. She wanted to go back there more than anything. But she was still here, and the next morning would come soon. The days passed in the same gray rhythm at the Galactic Harmony Academy. Lirael moved through the corridors like a shadow. She kept her head low, her wings wrapped tight under the uniform shirt. The white bands pressed hard against her feathers. She learned to breathe shallow so the pain stayed small. She learned to walk close to the walls so no one could corner her easily. She learned to arrive early to every class and leave late so the hallways stayed empty. Mara Voss arrived on the station 3 weeks into the term. She came alone, with one small bag and no family to see her off. Humans were still new here. Most students stared when they saw her, because humans look so plain. No scales, no extra limbs, no glowing skin, just smooth brown skin, dark hair, and eyes that seemed too sharp for such a small body. Mara wore her hoodie up all the time. The hood hid half her face. She spoke only when a teacher asked a question. Her answers were short and correct. She took notes fast and never looked around much. On her fourth day, Mara walked the same corridor where the Crothari waited. She saw them from far away, 4 big shapes blocking the path. She slowed her steps. She watched Lirael come around the corner. The Valkyrie girl walked with small, careful steps, her shoulders hunched forward. Mara stopped 10 paces back. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed. She looked calm, like she was waiting for a friend. Grax saw the human first. He turned his head and grinned wide. His sharp teeth flashed. "Look," the monkey girl said. "Grax, she follows the bird now. Maybe she wants to watch." Torv laughed loud. The sound bounced off the metal walls. "Maybe she thinks she can stop us," he said. His forearms flexed. Krell and Vash stepped closer. They looked down at Mara. She was much shorter than them. Her head reached only to their chests. Mara did not move. She met Grax's eyes for 1 second, then looked away. She said nothing. The Crothari laughed again, turned back to Lirael. Grax reached out and grabbed the bands around her wings. He pulled hard. The top one snapped free. Lirael made a small sound deep in her throat. She closed her eyes tight. Torv took the next band. He ripped it off. Her wings opened halfway. The feathers glowed soft silver in the bright lights. Krell grabbed her left arm. Vash grabbed her right. They held her still while Grax started to twist the big primary feathers. Mara watched every move. She saw how Lirael's body shook, how tears ran down her cheeks, how the broken feathers fell like dying light. She saw how the Crothari smiled while they hurt her. She saw how other students walked past without stopping. She saw how no one helped. When the Crothari finished, they dropped the broken feathers on the floor. Grax kicked them toward Lirael's feet. "Clean up your mess, bird," he said. Then they walked away, laughing loud. Lirael bent down slowly. She picked up the white bands with shaking hands. She started to wrap her wings. Again, the pain made her breath come in short gasps. She did not look up. She did not see Mara still standing there. Mara waited until Lirael finished wrapping. She waited until the Valkyrie girl stood straight again. Then Mara walked forward. She stopped 2 steps away. Lirael finally looked up. Her twilight eyes were wet and red. "You are hurt," Mara said. It was not a question. Lirael nodded once. She wiped her face with her sleeve. "I will be fine," she whispered. "The nanites fix it by morning." Mara looked at the floor where broken feathers still glowed faintly. "That should not happen," she said. Lirael looked surprised. "No one says that," she answered. "It is just how things are here." Mara tilted her head. "Not where I come from," she said. Then she turned and walked to class without another word. That night, Lirael lay in her sleep pod. The medical nanites worked inside her body. They rebuilt the broken feathers slowly. The glow came back feather by feather. She stared at the pain. Ceiling. She thought about the human girl, the small, quiet one, who watched, but did not run away. She wondered why Mara spoke to her. No one else ever did. The next morning started the same. Lirael wrapped her wings tight. She left her room early. She walked the long way around to avoid the usual corridor. But the Crothari were not there today. She felt strange relief mixed with worry. She reached xenobiology class and sat in her usual seat. Mara was already there. She sat 1 row behind Lirael today, instead of the very back. When the teacher started talking about crystal life forms on ice worlds, Mara leaned forward a little. She spoke in a low voice, so only Lirael could hear. "They were not in the hall today," Mara said. Lirael turned her head just enough to see Mara's face. "No," she answered. "Maybe they slept late." Mara made a small sound that was not quite a laugh. "Or maybe they found something else to do." Lirael felt a tiny spark of hope, but she pushed it down. Things hurt more when they went back to normal, she told herself. After class, Mara walked out at the same time as Lirael. They ended up in the same corridor again. This time the Crothari were there. Grax saw them both. He grinned big. "The monkey and the bird together," he called out. "How cute." Torv cracked his knuckles with all four hands. Maybe we clip 2 sets today, he said. Mara stopped walking. She looked at them calmly. Lyril froze beside her, heart beating fast. Grax walked closer. He towered over both girls. You want to join the fun, human? He asked, his voice full of mockery. Mara looked up at him. She did not blink. No, she said. I do not like your kind of fun. The Crothari laughed loud. The sound filled the hall. Grax leaned down until his face was close to hers. Then walk away, monkey, before we make you. Mara did not move. She spoke again, her voice still calm. You hurt her every day, she said. That stops now. Grax stared at her. Then he laughed even louder. You think you can stop us, he asked. You are small. You are weak. You are nothing here. Mara looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, maybe. Then she turned to Lyril. Come on, she said. Let us go another way. Lyril followed her. They walked past the Crothari. The big students let them pass, but Grax called after them. This is not over, bird. We will see you tomorrow, and maybe your new friend too. Lyril walked faster. Her wrapped wings ached from tension. Mara kept pace beside her. They did not speak until they reached the lift tubes. Why did you do that? Lyril asked. You made them angry. Mara shrugged. I do not like bullies, she said. Simple as that. Lyril looked at her. You do not understand, she said. They are Crothari. They are stronger. They have 4 arms. They never lose. Mara stopped walking. She turned to face Lyril. I understand more than you think, she said. Back home on Edge 9, we had people like them too. Big, loud, mean. They thought strength was everything, until someone smaller showed them different. Lyril stared. What happened? She asked. Mara smiled just a little. Not much, she said. Just a reminder that size does not always win. Lyril wanted to ask more, but the lift arrived. They stepped inside and rode up in silence. When the doors opened, Mara looked at Lyril one more time. Tomorrow, she said. Walk with me. I will be there. Lyril nodded slowly. She did not know what to say. She just felt something warm in her chest, for the first time in a long time. The next few days, Mara walked the same paths as Lyril. She never said much, but she was always close enough to see. Sometimes she walked right beside her, sometimes a few steps behind. The Crothari noticed. They made jokes. They flexed their arms. They threatened. But Mara never reacted. She just looked at them with those calm, dark eyes. One afternoon in the dining hall, Lyril sat alone at a small table. Mara came over with her tray and sat across from her. Asking, You do not have to do this, Lyril said. You can eat with others. Mara took a bite of her food. I like quiet, she said, and you are quiet. Lyril almost smiled, but the pain in her wings stopped it. She looked down at her plate. Thank you, she whispered. Mara nodded. Do not thank me yet, she said. Things might get worse before better. Lyril looked up. What do you mean? Mara looked around the room at all the different students, then back at Lyril. I mean, when bullies feel challenged, they push harder, she said. But that is okay. I am ready when they push. Lyril felt cold suddenly. You cannot fight them, she said. They will hurt you too. Mara ate another bite, then said, Maybe then. She looked straight into Lyril's eyes. Or maybe they will learn something new about humans. Lyril did not know what to say. She just sat there while Mara finished her meal. The human girl stood up, took her tray, and left without another word. That night, Lyril lay awake longer than usual. She thought about Mara. Small, quiet Mara, who did not run, who did not look scared. She thought about the way Mara spoke to the Crothari, like they were nothing special. She felt afraid for her new friend, but also something else, something like trust. The next morning came too soon. Lyril wrapped her wings tighter than ever. She stepped into the corridor. Mara was already waiting. She nodded once and fell into step beside her. The Crothari were there again. This time they looked angrier. Grax stepped forward, his scar twisting with his frown. You two again, he growled. Today we teach lessons. Mara stopped. She put one hand on Lirel's arm. "Stay behind me," she said, soft but firm. Lirel's heart pounded fast. She wanted to run, but her legs would not move. Grax laughed. "You think you protect her, human?" he said. "Cute." Mara did not answer. She just stood there, small and still, waiting. The tension hung thick in the air. The hallway grew quiet. Watch. No one knew what would happen next, but everyone felt it coming. The morning light from the gas giant filtered through the station windows in soft orange waves. Liriel woke with a start, her heart already racing before she even opened her eyes. She sat up in the sleep pod and looked at the mirror. Her reflection showed tired twilight eyes and pale skin. She reached for the white bands on the shelf. Her fingers shook a little more than usual. Today she wrapped her wings tighter than ever. The feathers pressed flat against her back until they hurt. She pulled the uniform shirt over them and smoothed it down. She told herself today would be different. Mara would walk with her today. Maybe the Crothari would leave them alone. She stepped into the corridor earlier than normal. The halls were still quiet. Only a few maintenance drones hummed along the walls. She walked fast, keeping close to the panels. She hoped to reach the xenobiology room before anyone noticed her. Mara had said, "Meet me at the lift tubes." Liriel turned the corner and saw the small human girl, already waiting, hoodie up, hands in pockets. Mara nodded once when she saw Liriel. No smile, just calm, steady eyes. "Good morning," Mara said, her voice low. "Good morning," Liriel answered. She felt a tiny bit safer with Mara there. They started walking together, side by side. Their steps matched, even though Mara's legs were shorter. Liriel glanced at her friend. The human looked small next to most students, but she moved with quiet purpose, like she knew exactly where she was going. They reached the wide hallway where trouble always waited. Today the Crothari were already there. Grax leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Torv, Krell, and Vash stood behind him. They saw the two girls coming and pushed off the wall. Grax's smile was slow and mean. "Well, well," he said, "the bird brought her pet monkey today. How sweet." The other three laughed, deep rumbling laughs that echoed down the hall. Liriel slowed her steps. Mara did not. She kept walking straight toward them. Liriel grabbed Mara's sleeve. "Please," she whispered, "let us go another way." Mara patted her hand gently. "No," she said, "we are going this way." Grax stepped into the middle of the path, blocking them completely. His forearms spread wide. "You think you can just walk past us, human?" he asked, his voice full of mockery. Mara stopped. She looked up at him calmly. "Yes," she said. "Move." Torv laughed so hard he slapped one of his own arms. "Move," he repeated. "Listen to the little monkey. She gives orders now." Krell cracked his knuckles. Vash flexed all four hands. They moved to circle the girls. Lirel pressed closer to Mara. Her wrapped wings ached from fear. Grax leaned down until his scarred face was close to Mara's. "You have been following our bird for days," he said, whispering now. "Maybe you think you are her shield. Maybe you think humans are tough. I heard stories about your kind. Small, angry, violent. But look at you. Tiny, soft, no claws, no scales, nothing." Mara did not flinch. She met his gaze without blinking. "Not here to fight," she said. "I just want you to leave her alone." Grax straightened up and laughed loud. "Leave her alone," he said. "Why would we do that? She is fun to clip every morning. Her screams are like music, and she never fights back, never tells, never does anything but cry." Lirel felt hot tears start in her eyes. She looked down at the floor. Mara's voice stayed even, then "Stop," she said. "Simple as that." Grax's grin faded a little. He looked at his friends, then back at Mara. "Or what?" he asked. "Or you will do what, exactly?" Mara took one small step forward. "I will stop you," she said. The hallway went quiet. Other students stopped walking. They formed a loose circle. Some pulled out data pads to record. Some whispered to each other. No one moved to help. No one ever did. Torv stepped up beside Grax. "You hear that, boys?" he said. "The human wants to play hero. Let us give her a lesson too." Krell reached out one big hand toward Lirel to grab her arm. Mara moved faster than anyone expected. She stepped between them and pushed Krell's wrist away with both hands. The Krothari looked surprised for a second, then angry. "You touched me," he growled. Mara said nothing. She just stood there, small and still. Grax nodded to the others. "Get the bird," he said. "We will teach them both at once." Torv and Vash lunged for Lirael. Mara spun. She grabbed Torv's leading arm and twisted hard. Something popped loud. Torv yelled and pulled back. Krell swung at Mara with two fists. She ducked low, came up inside his guard, and drove her elbow into his throat. Sack! The big Krothari choked and staggered back. Grax roared and charged. He swung all four arms in wide arcs. Mara dropped to the floor, rolled under one swing, came up behind him. She kicked the back of his knee, hard. Grax's leg buckled. He dropped to one knee. She did not stop. She jumped onto his back, wrapped one arm around his thick neck, and squeezed with all her strength. Grax clawed at her arm. His scales scraped her skin. But she held on. Vash came from the side. He grabbed Mara's leg and yanked. She lost her grip and fell hard to the floor. Vash raised one massive foot to stomp down. Lirael screamed no. Mara rolled away just in time. The foot slammed into metal where her head had been. She sprang up, grabbed Vash's ankle, and twisted with her whole body. Vash howled as his joint bent wrong way. He fell sideways, crashing into Torv. Both went down in a tangle. Krell recovered enough to charge again. He lowered his head like a bull. Mara sidestepped at the last second, grabbed one of his lower arms and used his momentum to swing him into the wall. His face hit the panel with a loud crack. Blood sprayed from his snout. He slid down and stayed there. Grax pushed himself up, roaring in anger. He swung wild. Mara ducked. Two arms caught the third on her shoulder. Pain flashed across her face, but she did not stop. She stepped inside his reach, drove her palm up under his jaw. The impact snapped his head back. With a knee to his stomach, air whooshed out of him. He doubled over. She brought her elbow down on the back of his neck, hard. Grax dropped face first to the floor, unconscious. The hallway was silent now. Only heavy breathing and small whimpers from the fallen Krothari. Lirael stood frozen, her wings still wrapped tight. Tears streamed down her face. She stared at Mara. The small human girl stood in the middle of the chaos, blood on her knuckles, split lip, breathing hard but steady. Her hoodie had fallen back, dark hair stuck to her sweaty forehead. Mara turned to Lirael. "You okay?" she asked, soft. Lirael could only nod. Her voice would not work. Mara looked around at the crowd of students still watching. Some looked shocked, some looked scared, some looked excited. She wiped blood from her mouth with the back of her hand. Then she walked to Lirael, took her hand gently. "Come on," she said. "Let us get you to medical." They started walking away from the fallen Krothari. The crowd parted silently. Security drones finally arrived, buzzing overhead, red lights flashing. But they did not grab the girls. They just scanned the scene and sent alerts. In the medical wing, soft blue lights glowed. Lirael sat on a lev bed. A medic drone hovered over her, scanning her wrapped wings. Mara sat on a stool nearby. A nurse bot cleaned the cuts on her hands and face. "Why?" Lirael finally whispered. "Why did you do that?" Mara looked at her bruised knuckles. "Because it was wrong," she said. "Because no one else would. Because watching them hurt you every single day made me sick inside." Lirael reached out. Trembling fingers touched Mara's hand. Soft silver light flowed from her skin into the human cuts. Closed slowly. The pain faded from Mara's face. "Thank you," Lirael said, tears falling again. "Thank you." Mara squeezed her hand. "Don't thank me yet," she said. "This is not over. The Academy will want answers. The Crothari Embassy will scream for blood. To fight, to keep me here. Lyrael's eyes widened. What will happen? Mara shrugged. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. But one thing is sure. They will not touch your wings again. Not while I am around. Outside in the corridor, words spread fast. Students whispered in every language. The small human girl took down 4 Crothari, without weapons, without armor, just hands and speed and will. Teachers gathered in offices, diplomats sent urgent messages. The station felt different, suddenly charged with something new. Lyrael lay back on the bed, nanites already starting to mend the stress cracks in her wing bones. She looked at Mara, sitting quiet and fierce beside her. For the first time in years, she felt something like hope. Real hope, not the weak kind she used to tell herself, but strong, bright hope. The bullies had broken her wings each morning for so long. But today, one human girl said enough, and the galaxy started to listen. The days after the fight felt strange and new at the Galactic Harmony Academy. The corridors seemed wider, the lights brighter, the air lighter. Lyrael walked with her wings unbound for the first time since she arrived on the station. The feathers caught every beam of orange light from the gas giant and turned it into soft silver glows. Students stared when she passed. Some whispered, some smiled, some looked away fast. No one laughed, no one pointed, no one tried to grab her. She still woke early each morning out of habit. She sat on the edge of her sleep pod and looked at the white bands on the shelf for a long moment. Then she put them back in the drawer. She stood up, stretched her wings wide. The tips brushed the walls of her small room. She felt the pull in her shoulders, the gentle ache of healing bones, but no fear, no need to hide. She pulled on her uniform shirt, left it open at the back so her wings could move free. She walked out into the corridor, head high, shoulders back. Waited at the lift tubes like she promised, hoodie up, but pushed back a little, so her face showed more. She had fresh bandages on her knuckles. The bruises on her shoulder turned yellow at the edges. She nodded when she saw Lyrael. "Good morning," she said, simple and quiet. "Good morning," Lyrael answered, her voice stronger now. They fell into step together. No hurry, no looking over shoulders. The hallway where everything happened looked the same. Metal walls, shiny floor, but it felt different. No big shadows waited. No mean laughs echoed. In xenobiology class, Lyrael chose a seat near the front instead of the back row. She spread her wings a little, so they rested easy against the chair. Mara sat beside her today, not behind the teacher. A kind cephalopod with many gentle arms started the lesson on atmospheric migration patterns. Lyrael listened close, took notes with steady hands. For the first time in months, the words made sense. The drawings on the holoboard looked clear. Students came over, some shy, some curious. A small feathered Avari girl asked, "May I see your wings closer? They are beautiful." Lyrael smiled. "Soft yes," she said. She opened them wider. The silver light danced across faces. The Avari girl touched one feather with care. "It feels like warm wind," she whispered. Others watched from a distance. Some nodded, respect in their eyes. Word had spread far beyond the academy. The footage from the corridor cams played on news feeds across neutral stations. Diplomats talked in quiet rooms. The Crothari embassy stayed angry, but quieter now. Their demands for punishment faded when human representatives sent polite but firm replies. "We stand by our citizen," the messages said. "Read your own laws again. Self-defense is protected." The 4 Crothari recovered slow, in medical stasis. Grax woke first, his face wrapped in regen bands. His pride hurt worse than his bones when he saw the suspension notice and the mandatory classes on consent and interspecies respect. Growled low, but said nothing. The others followed. Same orders, same shame. They returned to classes weeks later, heads down, voices small. They avoided the hallway where it happened. They avoided Lyrael. They avoided Mara, most of all. One afternoon in the dining hall, Lyrael sat with Mara and a few new friends. The Avari girl, the kind cephalopod teacher, even joined sometimes. Today a group of mixed species sat close. They talked about homeworlds, about favorite foods, about dreams. Lyrael spoke more than she ever had. She told stories of Aetheris, endless clouds, warm updrafts, flights that lasted days. Her voice carried light and clear. Mara listened, quiet smile on her face. She added bits about Edge 9, rough red dirt, endless runs under double suns. A tall mammalian student leaned over. "Excuse me," he said, looking at Mara. "Is it true you fought 4 Krathari alone? No weapons, no help?" Mara shrugged. "Yes," she said. "How?" he asked, amazed. Mara thought for a second. "I got angry. Then, I moved fast, used what I had. Close hands, elbows, knees, surprise. Mostly surprise they did not expect me to fight back." The table went quiet. Then someone laughed, soft, not mean, just surprised. The mammalian student nodded respect. "I will remember that," he said. "Humans fight different." Lyrael looked at Mara across the table. "You changed more than just me," she said. "You changed how everyone sees us." Mara poked at her food. Maybe she answered, or maybe they just needed to see it once. That evening, Lyrael and Mara walked to the observation deck. The big dome showed the full gas giant, swirling storms in orange and gold bands. Lyrael spread her wings wide. The light caught every feather. She floated a little in the low gravity, feeling free. Mara stood beside her, hands in pockets, looking out. "Why did you help me?" Lyrael asked again, soft. Mara took a breath. "Because it hurt to watch," she said. "Every day the same thing. You standing there, taking it. No one stopping it. No one caring. I could not be one more person who looked away." Lyrael turned to her friend, tears bright in twilight eyes. "But you could have been hurt bad. You could have lost everything." Mara smiled small. "Maybe, but doing nothing felt worse than any hit they could give me. Back home, we learn early. Sometimes you stand up, even when the odds look bad, because if you do not, who will?" Lyrael reached out, touched Mara's arm. Silver light flowed again, warm healing. The last faint bruises faded completely. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." Mara covered Lyrael's hand with hers. "You are welcome," she said. "Now fly, if you want. I will watch." Lyrael laughed, light and clear. She stepped back, opened her wings full span, then pushed off. Gentle, she rose slow, circled the dome, feathers glowing bright against the gas giant backdrop. She flew loops, tight, slow, graceful. Other students gathered at the windows, watched in silence. Some cheered soft, some just stared, amazed. Mara leaned against the rail, arms crossed, watched her friend soar. Small, proud smile on her face. Weeks turned to months. The academy settled into new patterns. Bullies thought twice before acting. Teachers watched closer. Rules tightened a little. The Valkyrie girl who once hid her wings now taught a small flight class in zero-gravity chambers. Students from heavy worlds learned what light bones felt like, what freedom in air meant. Mara stayed quiet. Same hoodie, same calm eyes, but students greeted her now with nods. Some asked for training tips. She showed basic moves, simple things, leverage, speed, how to turn size against itself. A few practiced with her in spare time. No one called her monkey anymore. One final morning before end of term, Lyrael stood in her room, wings open, uniform packed, bag ready. She looked at the drawer, where white bands still sat untouched. She picked them up, carried them to the recycler, dropped them in, watched them vanish. She felt no sadness, only relief. Stood together, while boarding calls sounded. "You go home now," Lyrael said. "Yes," Mara answered. "Edge 9 waits, family waits, real sky waits." Lyrael hugged her tight, wings wrapping around both of them, silver light, warm and bright. "Thank you for being my friend," she whispered. "Thank you for teaching me I could be strong." Mara hugged back. Fierce, you were always strong, she said. You just needed someone to remind you. They pulled apart. Lyrael stepped onto the shuttle ramp, turned one last time, waved Mara, waved back, small figure in hoodie, against the big station lights. The shuttle doors closed. Lyrael sat by the window, watched the academy shrink, watched the gas giant spin slow. She touched one glowing feather, smiled soft. The bullies broke her wings each morning for so long. But one human girl shattered their faces with nothing but courage and will. And in that shattering, something new began. A quiet strength spread through the stars. Act at a time. One unbreakable friend at a time. Humanity had arrived, and no one would forget. The security drones arrived first, their red lights flashing sharp across the hallway walls. They hovered over the 4 fallen Crothari, scanning bodies, taking readings, sending silent alerts through the station network. Students stood in a wide circle. Some backed away, others leaned closer, with datapads raised to capture every second. Mara stood in the center, breathing steady. Her hands hung loose at her sides. Blood dripped slow from split knuckles onto the clean metal floor. Lyrael stayed right behind her, wings still wrapped tight, body trembling from shock and leftover fear. One drone descended close to Grax. It extended a thin probe, touched his neck, then pulled back. Its light changed from red to yellow, unconscious but stable. Another drone did the same to Torv, Krell, and Vash. All 4 showed heavy bruising, broken facial bones, cracked joints. One had a shattered nasal crest, another had a dislocated jaw. The scans painted clear pictures of force applied with precision, no weapons used. Hands, feet, elbows, knees, and one small human body. Mara looked up at the drones. She did not run, she did not hide. She just waited. 2 security officers in gray armor pushed through the crowd. They carried stun batons but kept them low. One was a tall insectoid with clicking mandibles, the other a stocky mammalian with thick fur. They stopped short when they saw the scene. What happened here? The mammalian officer asked, voice deep and calm. Mara spoke first. They attacked her, she said, pointing to Lyrael. They have done it every day for months. Today they tried to take me too. I defended us. The insectoid officer tilted his head, compound eyes glittered. He looked at Lyrael, who nodded, small and quick. It is true, she whispered. They break my wings every morning. The officers exchanged glances. The mammalian one knelt beside Grax, lifted one eyelid, checked pupil response, then stood again. We need statements, he said. Both of you come with us. Medical first, then security. Office. Mara nodded once. She turned to Lyrael. Can you walk? Lyrael swallowed hard. Yes, she said, her voice barely there. They followed the officers through the corridors. Students parted like water. Whispers followed in every language. Monkey Girl took down 4 Crothari. Did you see how fast she moved? She did not even use tools, just bare hands. Impossible. In the medical wing, bright white lights hummed overhead. Lyrael lay on a lev bed. Nanites swarmed over her wrapped wings. They cut the bands, gently peeled them away. Broken feathers glowed dull now. Blood crusted along the shafts. The drone worked fast, rebuilding cartilage, mending hollow bones. Lyrael winced at every touch, but stayed quiet. Mara sat on the next bed. A bot cleaned her wounds, closed the splits on her knuckles with quick sprays. Her lips stopped bleeding. Her shoulder showed dark bruises where Grax's scales had scraped deep. She ignored the pain. She watched Lyrael the whole time. A senior medic entered, tall, slender, with pale blue skin. She checked both girls, read the drone reports, then looked at Mara. You are human, she said, not a question. Yes, Mara answered. The medic shook her head. 4 Crothari warriors, all larger, all heavier, all trained for labor in high gravity. And you did this alone? Mara shrugged. I did what I had to. The medic sighed. We will file the report. Academy Council meets in 1 hour. Embassy reps already on their way. This will not stay quiet. Lyrael sat up slowly. Her wings hung half open. new feathers pushing through old skin. Soft silver light returned, bit by bit. She looked at Mara. "Why did it work?" she asked. "You are smaller than them." Mara thought for a second. "We hunt different," she said. "On my world, humans chase prey until it drops. We do not fight fair. We fight to finish. We use leverage, speed, surprise, anything that works." Liralil stared in wonder. "You were not afraid?" "I was," Mara said, "but fear does not stop me. It sharpens me." Returned. They took statements separately. Lirael told her story in a soft voice. Every morning, the same hallway, the same hands, the same pain. She never reported, because no one listened before. She told how Mara walked with her, how the Crothari threatened, how the fight started fast and ended faster. Mara told her side, plain and short. They blocked the path. They grabbed Lirael. They came for me. I stopped them. That is all. The mammalian officer rubbed his furry chin. "Self-defense," he said. "Clear on recordings, too. Corridor cams caught everything. No one disputes who started it." The insectoid clicked mandibles. "But 4 against 1, he said. Embassy will claim excessive force. They will demand expulsion at minimum." Mara looked straight at him. "Read your own charter," she said. "Imminent harm to a sentient being allows proportional response. I used only what was needed." The officers left to file reports. The medical wing grew quiet, except for soft beeps and hums. Lirael reached over, took Mara's hand again. Silver light flowed warm and soothing into bruised skin. "You saved me," she said more than once now. Mara squeezed back. "You deserved saving." Hours passed. The Academy Council gathered in the central dome. A round chamber with high windows, showing the swirling gas giant below. Representatives from 20 species sat in tiered seats. Crothari Embassy sent a heavy delegation, 3 large figures in dark robes, faces hard. The human liaison was one small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She sat alone at her table. The council leader, a neutral AI voice, spoke from the center podium. Incident report filed. Multiple fractures, concussions, no fatalities. Self-defense claimed by human student, Mara Voss. Defense of third party, Lirael of Aetheris. Evidence from corridor recordings supports claim. The Crothari lead delegate stood, all 4 arms spread in anger. "This human used savage force," he boomed. "Our students require medical stasis for days." Broken faces, shattered pride. "This is not proportional. This is barbaric." The human liaison stood calm, her voice clear. "My student followed your interspecies code section 7, paragraph 4. Response to unprovoked assault may include necessary force to neutralize threat. Recordings show no weapons, no augmentation, baseline human physiology only. Your code also states cultural practices do not override right to safety. Your students claim wing clipping is cultural, yet Valkyrie law forbids non-consensual physical alteration. You ignored that for months." The Crothari delegate growled. "We are minors. We express strength. It builds character." The AI voice cut in. "Character building does not include repeated assault on a weaker species. Council finds fault, lies with Crothari students' pattern of behavior, documented by prior unreported incidents." Murmurs rose through the chamber. Other reps shifted, uncomfortable. Some nodded, some frowned. The Crothari delegate pointed one thick finger at Mara. "Face punishment, expulsion at least, restitution for medical costs." The human liaison smiled, thin. "No," she said, "my government reviewed footage. We stand by our citizen. Provisional membership or not. Humans protect our own, and those under our care. If you push this further, we will push back harder. Read the fine print of your own alliance treaty. Humans may be new, but we do not bend easy." Silence fell heavy. The AI voice spoke again. "Council rules, self-defense justified, no expulsion for Mara Voss. Crothari students face suspension, pending full review, mandatory cultural sensitivity training, restitution to Lirael for repeated harm." The Crothari delegates roared protest, but the gavel sounded final. Session closed. Word raced through the station faster than drones could carry it. The small human girl walked free. The bullies faced consequences for the first time. Students looked at Mara different now, not with pity or mockery, but with wary respect. Back in medical treatment, her wings opened fully, for the first time in months. Feathers shone bright. No bindings, no hiding. She flexed them. Gentle silver light danced across the room. Mara watched from the doorway, arms crossed, small smile on her face. "They will not try again," Lyrael said. Mara nodded. "Probably not today." Lyrael walked over, stood close. "You changed everything." Mara looked out the window at the gas giant, swirling slow. "No," she said, "I just started something. The rest is up to everyone else now." Lyrael spread her wings wide. The glow filled the room, warm and strong. She felt light, free for the first time since she arrived. The bullies broke her wings each morning, but one human girl shattered their faces. And the station would never be the same.